Hi, and welcome to using ebony pencils. This is something that I've been thinking about for quite a while. The use of ebony pencils. Now, these are made by Prismacolor, and we just refer to them in the art room as just ebony pencils. And you can even see my hands here. I've been getting into it, I've been sharpening quite a few. They're messy, but they're effective because, and I'll get all of them ready here, because we can create a great variety of effects with them. So I'm just going to open my small little sketchbook here. Now, a normal number 2 pencil, when we start to use those, some of the shading techniques, and here it is, some of the shading techniques that we've used in class. Okay, and these are things that I use typically for some of the upper elementary students, but I've used these also for high school and even for university level students with just a regular number 2 pencil. This one is called hatching, but let's just take a moment for a second with an ebony pencil. You can just see the color is just so much more rich. It's a little bit more dark. So this one is hatching. And I'll just continue with the ebony. Cross hatching. So again, this would have been a shading kind of a technique typically done in etching. We're talking, during the time of Albrecht Dürer, 1500s. Okay, and then we've got hatching, double cross hatching, and then even we've got double cross hatching. So this is a way, again, and I do the very technical squint test, you can see it getting very light and then darker, darker, darker. So with the hatching techniques, another kind of technique that we use pretty often is something called stippling. Now, stippling, if you have ever worked with a student before, any opportunity to make lots of noise is they love making noise. Anyway, usually kids want to do this like a tuk, 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 tuk kind of a pattern with their pencil. I always try to tell them just down and twist will give them the same effect, and it won't break the pencil lead that's inside there. Now, farther apart dots, less shadow, closer together dots, more shadow, and then finally densely populated areas, lots of dots all together, will create the darkest kind of a value. So that's ultimately what you're trying to get. Value refers to the lightness or darkness of a color. So ebony pencils are great for this. So really light pressure. And again, we can start to smudge a little bit darker. And then I can start to put a little bit more pressure on there. And then you can start to see this really beautiful kind of gradation of dark, rich color. Now, once kids learn, and look at how shiny my finger is. Oh, okay. Once they start to learn about that range of light to dark, this is where it gets really good because kids can then start to take an everyday object. Okay. And then we can start to apply some of these hatching, cross hatching, double cross hatching, stippling, and even this, and I would call this a smooth pencil technique. I usually have them hold their pencil like this. Okay, so you can make a really smooth kind of a pencil effect. But the beautiful part about this is when they start to create two-dimensional objects, they can start to make them look more three-dimensional. And this is really the break that you start to see developmentally with kiddos because they'll start to say, oh, okay, if the light source is like right here, maybe I'll have the light hitting the object and it'll slightly get darker and darker and darker on that other side. Let's say it's on some sort of a tabletop. We won't even really talk about cast shadows yet. But we'll start to say, oh, look at that. Okay, I can use that to create the illusion of it looking more three-dimensional. You can even start to get in your eraser here and start to do some subtractive erasing. I'm going to do a little bit more here too. Okay, this is where you can also start to do that hatching, but remember, if it's a three-dimensional object, make sure that you're going in the direction. I'm not going to do flat hatches because what would happen is that it would flatten my object. You'd want to make sure that your shading was more curved like that. So this is really the basics of some of the using an ebony pencil, some of the shading techniques that we use in school. Really, your first 100 drawings are your hardest. I would encourage kiddos that are starting to get really interested in drawing in 3 dimensions to sit down and just practice. I would encourage them to date their work, start to think about light source, okay, and where they might see a range of different lights and darks and how that might affect their work. So, for example, if the light was hitting this light source, that would be the brightest. This is the least close to the light, so this would be the darkest value, maybe blended. And then this is the in between. So, this is my range of value. So, thank you so much. I wish you all the best in your exploration of ebony pencils, exploring value and different shading techniques. Thanks, and see you soon.